Welcome back, guys, to another episode, O in the C, Victory Monday. I'm going to need you real loud. Everybody say it with me. It's another Tampa Bay Buccaneers Victory Monday! The Buccaneers yesterday traveled to Carolina to take on the Carolina Panthers, Teddy Bridgewater, all that good stuff. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers come away with a huge victory. So obviously when you have a victory like that, it's a team game. When you win by twice the other team's score, everybody stepped up, everybody played well, big team win. So what we're gonna do first before we even get into the video is throw up a list of the players who stepped up and made huge plays, huge contributions for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers yesterday that we're not gonna be talking about in this video in particular because they deserve credit and they deserve their recognition. So right here, we'll throw up the list and you can see all these guys, huge contributions. We don't win the game without them, that's for sure. Now we get into the individual things that we're going to talk about. Maybe it's some small stuff that you guys may not have noticed or may not have picked up on. Just a little tiny details that we kind of want to address in this video. So the first thing we're going to talk about is actually pregame. Actually happened before the game. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, even though it's about an 8-9 hour drive to go from Florida to Carolina, they are an NFL team. So they take a plane. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers flight, if you don't know, you can look it up, the story's all over Google. They had their flight delayed about 8 hours. Now, that's a long time, and it is relevant for a couple reasons. The first one I want to talk about is kind of the obvious one. You just want to say it's impressive that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were able to handle that, be so off schedule, and still come in and just handle business in the game and just set that aside, put that behind them, clear their minds, show the mental toughness to take on that adversity, play and win the game. Because even though it might not seem like a big deal, NFL players and teams are very scheduled and they stick to a schedule, and when the schedule gets disrupted for things that are completely out of your control, it can easily throw you for a loop and it could really set you back and hinder you and just get in your mind. But the Buccaneers handled adversity, and it's not the kind of adversity you would expect normally. It wasn't on the field adversity, it wasn't anything in the locker rooms, nothing like that. It was adversity from an outside source. So the Buccaneers were really able to handle that. They showed that they could handle that adversity, so that's good to see. The main thing I want to key in on, though, is when you have a situation like that, where you have a team who's essentially stuck on the runway for 8 hours. You're stuck at an airport for 8 hours. That's a long time, especially when you're not prepared for that. That's a long time to sit around in an airport, okay? I'm sure we've all had flights delayed at some point. That's a long time to sit in an airport. 8 hours, that's a lot. And the one thing that comes out of situations like that is you're forced to just be around the team and you're forced to just interact with guys. And at times you're interacting with guys that you may not normally interact with, right? Receivers generally, do they interact with linebackers? Well, maybe not. You know, you work in your groups in your receiver room, you work with the quarterbacks. Do you spend time with linebackers and D linemen? Maybe not. But in a situation like this, you have everybody there interacting with each other. It's an excellent moment for team bonding and for the team chemistry to grow. The Buccaneers really have two groups of players. They have the groups of players who were there before this year, okay? And even before the Bruce Arians era. And those groups of players understand the history of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, what it is to be a Buccaneer. They understand the ebbs and flows of it. They got all of that. Then you have the guys who have just come in. And there's a very large group of guys who have just come in who play pivotal roles on the team. And the guys who have just come in maybe don't interact with all of the guys who have been there for a long time on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers all the time because they stay in their own groups like I talked about before, and they stay with their personnel, things like that. But in a situation like this, everybody's just forced to interact. Everybody's forced to come together. There is no separation. We're all there together and we're just stuck dealing with this. So for 8 hours, it's just team building. It's team bonding. It's team chemistry growing. And that's awesome. And I think one of the biggest, most underrated things in team sports is team chemistry. I think the good team will always beat the group of talented individuals every time. I can't stress enough how much I think team chemistry comes to fruition, it comes to the forefront all the time in team sports. It's something no one really ever addresses, but team chemistry is crucial. You're never gonna have a team that wins if they don't have good team chemistry. It just doesn't happen. Even the most talented group of guys will fall short to a better team. Like most of the time, that's what happens. The better team wins, and you can't underestimate moments like this that come around few and far between because they're outside forces imposing them on you. Team chemistry, you can't plan for it to be built. It just comes, and I think potentially getting stuck on the runway for 8 hours is an ideal time for everybody to get together and build team chemistry. You even heard guys like Antonio Brown talk about it in their post-game press conference. He referenced how, you know, everybody was just kind of hanging out and getting to know each other and playing cards and having fun, and to me, that's everything. Like, that's what makes a good team a good team. You got Antonio Brown. We got Antonio Brown talking about he was having fun hanging out with the guys, and that's the thing that we as fans tend to forget, is that a lot of the guys on this team don't know each other. They're brand new and they don't know each other. And the better they get to know each other, the better they're going to be as football players together, a part of a team. So I think this is an underrated moment for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to come together. Not only overcome the adversity of having to deal with their schedule just being completely thrown and being completely offset, but then coming together as a team and just conquering the task in front of them regardless. Just exciting for me. So the next thing we want to talk about is going to be the offensive line. Now, we're going to talk about Ryan Jensen. We're going to talk about Ali Marpet, and we're going to talk about AQ Shipley. Now, Ali Marpet didn't play last week, or 2 weeks ago, I should say, I guess this week and last week, regardless. Ali Marpet has missed 2 games in a row now due to concussion injury, so Ali, we hope you're doing better. We see, with the lack of Ali Marpet, especially last week, we see how much of a difference Ali Marpet makes, and it is tough to tell sometimes with a left guard. And to Ali Marpet's credit, he's played right guard, left guard, and center in his career for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, all at a high level. But it's tough to tell with the left guard how impactful they are, because you're not really looking at a left guard all that often throughout a game unless you're really looking at a left guard. But you see without him the difference. This week, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who obviously also saw the difference, changed up their offensive line completely. Rather than just bringing in a substitution at left guard to replace Marpet, they kicked their center Ryan Jensen over to left guard and brought in their backup center AQ Shipley to play center. That was a huge decision, and you saw it as simply as this. Pressure on Tom Brady. Last week to this week, huge difference. Play of Donovan Smith. Last week to this week, huge difference. You see Ronald Jones, record-setting touchdown run. Longest play from scrimmage in Tampa Bay Buccaneers history, tied for the 3rd longest run in NFL history. Where did that go? Right behind Ryan Jensen, Donnie Smith, as Tom Brady calls him. That's who clears the hole on that play. It's a 98-yard touchdown run. Personally, one of the longest plays I've ever seen as a fan, and probably one of the most exciting too. When he was going, I was like almost just not breathing. I just was just watching it, and I was just like, you know, I just wasn't even. It was crazy to watch. That was a crazy play. And who do we run right behind on that, though? We run right behind our center at left guard, our embattled, to say the least, left tackle. And they clear that hole and they give him that space, and he was gone. And that's a huge credit to everybody involved. It might go totally forgotten if Ali Marpet comes back and balls out next week and we just go back to our normal base 5 starting lineup. But that deserves credit and recognition. That's a big time change by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to do that and just be prepared, and for the players to be able to step in. Ryan Jensen sliding over, doing something he's unfamiliar with, although I know he's played guard in his career in Baltimore earlier in his career, but still, being able to slide over like that, AQ Shipley being ready to come off the bench, that's good stuff. And that's what championship teams do. You're able to adapt, adjust. I know we talked about line play, honestly, more than I expected that we would on this channel, but it keeps coming up, and these guys are making plays, so they deserve their credit. The next and final thing we're gonna talk about, this similarly to when we had the Giants game, Victory Monday, or that was actually Victory Tuesday. But when we had the Giants game, we came on here and I said, well, this is not an underrated player, but it was an underrated performance. Same thing here. This is a super well-known player, but it's an underrated performance, and I think it deserves all the credit in the world. We're gonna talk about Chris Godwin. Now, Buccaneers fans, we know Chris Godwin. We love Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin is personally one of my favorite players on the whole team. And it's for moments like this. Now, Chris Godwin came onto the scene 2017. Chris Godwin definitely, if anyone was paying attention, he stole your heart immediately. This guy was making catches in traffic, crazy catches all over the field while he was getting hit, destroyed over the middle. It didn't matter. His hands were like glue. It was insane. If anybody remembers week 17 of 2017, Chris Godwin with the game-winning deep ball touchdown over the Saints. Oh my gosh, that was one of my favorite games. Definitely my favorite game of the entire 2017 season, and one of my favorite games in recent memory. That was like really awesome. That was an awesome game, awesome play. Obviously Godwin last year really getting some of the national credit, the national media recognition that he clearly deserves. He's a top tier player. This year has been a different story for Chris Godwin. He's been in and out of the lineup with injuries, all of that stuff. You don't need me to update you on that. We've all noticed this season. However, the thing that I would say I really respect the most about Godwin, you know, he's a dog. And when push comes to shove, you need guys on your team who are just fighters, and they're just winners, and they're gritty, and they just want it, and they're aggressive, and they just don't care. And Chris Godwin, those are not normal receiver qualities. You know, you don't say that in a receiver. I sound like I'm describing like a linebacker. But Chris Godwin plays so tough, plays so aggressive, and he deserves all the credit in the world for that. And yesterday was not necessarily the biggest game in Chris Godwin's career, not even close. But Chris Godwin is out there playing with a broken, fractured index finger. This is your index finger, for those who may not know. And if you've ever tried to catch a football, you catch footballs like this. This is how you catch a football, right here, right? The most crucial fingers, okay, are your index finger, your middle finger, and then your thumbs. These are what you catch a ball with, right? These are kind of ancillary. This is what you need to catch a ball. So imagine, go outside and try to catch a ball without these. They showed Godwin in the pregame last week. He's trying to catch a ball like this, okay? With these two fingers down and these two fingers up. That's so underratedly difficult. I can't even like begin to express it. You have to go outside, tell your friend, get a friend who can throw, and tell them to just fire some footballs at you and try to catch it without these two fingers. He played last week with a glove over his palm, over these fingers, and then it was actually cut out. These fingers were cut out and splinted together. Now, we've seen receivers, they'll try to catch like this with these fingers splinted or these fingers splinted, and that's nowhere near as big a deal. Your pointer finger or your index finger is everything when you're trying to catch a football. It is crucial for the process of the catch, and especially when you're a guy like Chris Godwin. He's not a speedster who's always open and all of his catches are uncontested because he's just running down the field catching bombs. All of Chris Godwin's catches, for the most part, are contested catches. He's got a guy draped on him. He goes up over the middle, strong hands, and makes the play anyway. He's got a guy right behind him. He goes up, clamps it, and the dude's pulling at the ball, and he pulls it in regardless. Those are Chris Godwin's highlights. And this is a guy now who's out there playing down a finger, really only, I would say he's got like 8.5 fingers is how I would describe it, and he's out there playing. And that is sensational. And the toughness that goes into that deserves so much recognition. And Chris Godwin, I mean, that's how you win, like personally, that's how you win fans over, like myself as a fan, like seeing that. I will always remember that Chris Godwin, like he's a dog, like he just wants it, and it doesn't matter, like if he can play, he's gonna play. And to be able to go out there and catch down fingers, because it's not like Godwin's playing with house money. it's a contract year for Chris Godwin. His reputation is on the line. If he goes out there and drops a bunch of balls because he's catching completely unorthodox with down your most crucial finger, if he goes out there and drops a bunch of balls, no one's gonna care that he's got an injury. All we're gonna see is the number 12 or excuse me, the number 14 Godwin written on the back, and we're all gonna say, why is Chris Godwin dropping balls? Why is Chris Godwin not as good? It looks like last year was a fluke. Godwin's not that good. That's what everybody's gonna say, and that's gonna be the talk. He's making no excuses, going out there and playing down a finger. And that to me is like really, really impressive and deserves all the credit in the world. And plenty of big plays by Godwin in this game, arguably none bigger. Early in the game, we had a 3rd and long. I believe it was a 3rd and 11. And Tom Brady steps up in the pocket into an absolute shot. He gets smacked right in the face. Takes a shot right to the mouth. Delivers a strike right down the middle of the field to Godwin. Got one-on-one with a guy draped on his back. And perfect throw, perfect catch. Godwin's able to cradle it, pull it in, give us the first down, and keep the chains moving in a crucial moment in the game where the Buccaneers are still kind of struggling to get rolling. Toughness personified, and that's Chris Godwin personified. And that's why, like I said before, Godwin, easily one of my favorite players on the team, and I just think he needs to be given recognition for the fact that he's out there playing down a finger as a receiver, any skill position player. If you're missing if you have any sort of issue with a crucial finger, really any of these right here, your thumbs or these two, that's everything. You know, that's your livelihood. So the fact that he's out there playing with that deserves all the recognition and all the credit in the world. So shout out to Chris Godwin, shout out to Ryan Jensen, shout out to AQ Shipley, shout out to Ali Marpet, and shout out to the whole Buccaneers team. Kind of a tough week, a weird style of adversity, but they were able to overcome, beat a division opponent on the road. Can't ask for too much more, right? Tampa Bay Buccaneers get themselves a win, and that means that today is another Victory Monday! Here on O in the C. Thank you for watching. Thank you for staying. Thank you for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for giving us this moment, this wonderful, happy, joyous Monday morning. And we'll be ready for next week. Everybody get ready to cheer loud. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the LA Rams. We will see how that goes. I cannot wait. Tampa Bay Buccaneers get themselves a win. Let's go Bucs.